Welcome to the second offseason for the Hogsty. Robbie has some strong thoughts about the coming rookie class, and we're going to talk to him about that. As we start to also look back on the season, let's talk a little bit about the defense for the Redskins and what we all saw, now with hindsight being clear. I'm going to do my best not to talk at all about the Arena League coming to D.C. right now on the Hogsty.
It's the Hogsty.
And welcome back. Guys, it's good to have you with me again. This is not the Disco Robot, Sean. This is Alex talking to you. We have, of course, with me, Steve and Robbie. Guys, welcome back to the show. I hope you guys are having a good long weekend.
Sure did.
We are having a good long weekend. It's the start of year 2 for the Hogsty. I guess you could.
And happy Valentine's Day to everyone out there.
Right. We love you all.
Absolutely.
Except
well, we don't love
Cowboys
all of you.
Fans.
Yeah, we don't love you guys.
No, fuck you guys. Well, guys, let's jump right into this. There's one thing I didn't mention in the intro that we should really talk about really quickly, and that's this Peyton Manning thing that came out over the weekend. Stories about a alleged cover-up of a sex scandal back when he was in college that his father was in. Steve, you're the legal expert, and there's a 76-page document that I'm sure you're chomping at the bit to read through about this whole case.
Okay.
So,
well,
first
first
just
of
give
all,
us a quick rundown.
Yeah. The quick rundown is back when he was in college. There was an incident involving one of the athletic department staff members where she alleged that in a locker room when he was receiving training, Peyton Manning placed his male genitalia on her head. Basically, essentially, and the allegation was that the university, predictably tried to cover it up and protect Peyton.
Right.
What happened in the last week is that there was an article. There's been more than one article. The one I read was by Sean King in the New York Daily News.
Right.
And what he did is that article discussed the lawsuit that this woman filed against Peyton Manning in the University of Tennessee. She filed a defamation claim, and defamation, in short form, is if somebody says something that's untrue about you that is damaging to you.
Right.
You have a cause of action.
Slander or libel.
Yes.
Yeah, and now the article he wrote. The reason why I wanted to mention this, that the 76-page document that Alex is talking about, and the document that is cited extensively in that article, is actually a response to a summary judgment motion. What happened was this woman filed her defamation claim. Peyton Manning's lawyers filed what's called a summary judgment motion, which basically tells the court, hey, court, there's no real legal or factual issues that are in dispute here. We should win without a trial. And the other side has a chance to respond to it. And what that article by Sean King does is the response to his summary judgment motion. It's not a court ruling.
Right.
It is documentary evidence, but it is her side of the story. Now, it may be right. She may be 100% right. It may be 100% accurate. None of us were there.
Sure.
But it paints a distorted picture in that Peyton Manning's side. The summary judgment motion and any responses that he did were not quoted and were not cited. And so the article is one-sided in that it gives her side of the story, but not his. And so I thought it was a little bit unfair, because what actually happened in the case was that the judge did deny Manning's summary judgment motion, but which is very normal and very usual. If there's any factual dispute at all, the judge is going to deny the summary judgment motion. And in this case, the judge said, yeah, because there's these affidavits, on her, attached to her response that place his story into doubt. And so there needs to be a trial. It's not any more complicated than that. And what actually happened in the case is they settled out of court. which happens in 99% of the cases. And you really and truly can't ascribe any guilt, innocence, or in a civil case liability to a settlement.
It always looks damning. I mean, from public perception,
it does,
settling out in court always looks bad.
But it's far worse to go to trial a lot of times for a lot of reasons. I'm not going to get into all that. But the article is really not a fair article because it makes the reader believe that what was placed in the response to summary judgment by this woman are the undisputed facts, wherein it really is just her side of the story.
Right.
So that's what and again, I'm not here to defend Peyton Manning. It's an awful story, and if it's true, he's a horrible person.
It taints everything about his legacy.
It does. But I'm just saying, I don't want the public to jump to conclusions about something like that on the basis of a one-sided story.
And I think, you've kind of taken this position in the past with some of the other legal things we've talked about, the Tom Brady thing, but I think I'm kind of with you that you can't just conclude automatically that he's guilty necessarily. But there are some horrible things described in that story, and not just the summary judgment stuff, the allegations by the guy who wrote Peyton Manning's book, the ghostwriter, and the conversations he had with Archie and Peyton Manning about this whole incident are kind of disturbing if those are to be taken, if we're taking him at his word, it's a disturbing story as well.
It paints the whole Manning family out to be
very skeevy.
Sketchy, bad people. It alleges that Peyton went out of his way to lie and cover up
and
what
ruin
allegedly
this
happened.
Career.
Ruin this one's career. It alleged that he said all sorts of hateful things about her. Mm-hmm. It alleges that the university asked her to blame it on another player.
Right.
Which happened, by the way, Peyton Manning's obviously white, and they asked her to blame a black player, apparently, according to the article, which is just, even makes it even worse, obviously, because then you bring a racist component into it.
It alleges Archie Manning was saying that she was having affairs with all the black players.
Yeah. It's really bad. But again, my point is, I wish this is the kind of thing where the public jumps to conclusion over when on the basis of an article that is a very one-sided article that makes zero effort to present the other side of it in any sort of balanced and fair way.
Fair enough. And we're sharks in the water these days. We smell blood, we all rush to it. That's what the public
let's be honest. I mean, the New York Daily News is competing against the preeminent newspaper in the world and the New York Times for the New York market, and they have to print salacious stuff to get a share of the readership.
And I first read about it in the Daily Beast 2 weeks ago, which I think led to the New York Daily News article. So just to give full context there, and let me pull up the name of the writer there because I forgot it.
My computer froze up, Alex. I was trying to quote it for you, but it
Robert
locked up.
Silverman is the writer for the Daily Beast who reported this 2 weeks ago, and then I think he was involved in the Daily News article. But I don't want to get too bogged down in it. It's a horrible story. Robbie?
Well, yeah, I mean, did you see that ESPN's told everybody that works for them to not even talk about it? We're not going to do anything. We're not going to cover this at all. They're basically pushing it aside and not even going to address it.
Well, I can't blame them. I have not noticed that, but I can't blame it. I've always thought that ESPN must hand all their radio guys' agendas every day because they always seem to talk about the same things and make the same points from Mike and Mike all the way through their evening show, But I can't really blame ESPN for not really covering because it's not new. The document that this guy, Sean King and Silverman before him cited has been in the public record since the lawsuit. Anybody can go up and look it up.
Well, then why wasn't this a story before?
Well, that's a good question, but that would have been a question for 10 years ago, or more. It was 2003, so it would have been a question for back then. And I don't think Sean King, other than the fact that he got a hold of this response to summary judgment, really uncovered anything that wasn't already in the public record. So, what is the new story?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
I just find it shady to not cover that, but instead cover, Cam Newton's press conference after the Super Bowl and have all kinds of segments about his character and personality and all that stuff.
I'll tell you what, what's a far worse story, I guess how to put it, is the Peyton Manning HGH story. That's worse,
another whole thing. And
it's not a worse incident.
You talking
don't.
about the
It's not a worse
hiring? But you're talking about how he hired like snoops to find to get digs and info on the people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, just the whole thing. Listen, a sexual assault allegation is worse. Make no mistake about it. I'm just saying, at this point, that is what it is. It's done. It's over.
Mm-hmm.
The news story is new and really hasn't been covered, and it's basically alleging.
Right.
The allegation in so many words is that, Peyton was having this company ship him HGH in the name of his wife at home, and the allegation that Robbie was talking about is he was going out there and hiring people to dig up information on him and all sorts of things.
Right.
The NFL is investigating it. There may be a reason beyond just playing that why Peyton Manning is retiring.
Well, I mean, clearly playing is no longer something.
But think about I know, but think about this.
Oh yeah. I would.
If he's not an NFL player anymore, the NFL can drop the investigation.
Right. And
it will just be gone. And the NFL doesn't want an HGH scandal either.
I mean, look, if we can harken back a little bit to the steroids era in baseball, look at the number of guys who kind of dropped out of baseball right when all that stuff was blowing up, who were all kind of named.
In the Mitchell report, which was never supposed to be made public.
Right. But a lot of those big name guys dropped out, what was that, within a year or two of that on either side. So
they did.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to kind of keep up with that. The NFL seems to get these big scandals now every offseason, and I respect that, at least we're talking about this stuff now and not covering it up, but it also kind of ruins the game in a way, which is a shame.
Well, yeah, but the NFL is Teflon. Really, has any of this stuff hurt the NFL ratings? The ratings are solid. The income stream from the revenue stream, rather, for the teams in the NFL is greater than ever. The player contracts are bigger than ever. They're talking about expanding to London. They moved back in the LA market just now. It seems like nothing seems to matter.
And maybe this is a whole conversation for another day, because I think we could get really in depth in it. Are we better off as football fans getting this stuff out there and dealing with it head on rather than kind of letting it get covered up? Would you rather, as a fan of, I'm just going to pull this one out there, the Ravens, would you rather have Ray Rice on your team the whole time knowing he's beating his wife, or would you rather kick him off? Well,
I think there's a lot of there's a solid argument really to say, should any of this really be public knowledge, and does it really matter? Because listen, Ray Rice is not an employee of the citizens of Baltimore. Ray Rice is an employee of a company that owns the football franchise, the Baltimore Ravens, and their hiring policies are solely the discretion of the NFL and the Ravens. And if I was a player, I think you could make a darn good argument to say, what does it matter what I do? Yeah, exactly. It's none of your business. What does it matter if what I do in my off time, as long as I'm obeying the rules of the NFL? What does it matter? And that's the wrong position to take, in my opinion, because you're a public figure. You're a role model.
But you're giving the contrarian point of view.
Right. Yeah. Which, I'm good at contrarian points of view, as you all know.
Yeah.
So there's a good, but I don't know, as a fan, what I've always said is, don't look at these players as role models unless you know them personally.
Right.
If you know them personally, you've met them, you've talked to them, you know them, they're good people. That's one thing. But just to pick a player, I don't even want to name a name because,
I'm with you.
Yeah, your favorite player out there may be able to do a lot on the field, but he may be a crummy human being. And so, emulate what he does on the field, but don't idolize him.
There are a lot of crummy human beings out there, by the way. I had to help my wife out today with her job, which is in public service, and I dealt with about 250 people, and there was a lot of them who were just terrible people.
I don't doubt it.
The stupidity of the entitled is what I called my day. So.
I hate entitled people. Can't stand it.
Did you say the stupidity of the entitled?
Oh, yeah. I think if I write a book, I might title it that. It's a good line, right?
You better.
That's a good one. Yeah.
You better get a patent on that.
Now.
Or copyright.
It's a copyright. Yeah.
Well, do you guys want to move on? Talk about some more football topics.
I think Robbie's about to yawn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of took a back seat on that one.
Yeah.
Let you guys do the jibber jabbing on that one.
Well, Steve and I like to talk politics, and that gets as close to politics as football goes.
If the fans could only hear some of the conversations we've had off air.
Yeah, it's fine. Well, what do you want to do first? You guys want to talk about rookies, or we want to talk about the defense?
Let's do defense.
Yeah, we talked pretty much offense all last week. We owed the defense a review.
Then let's do the
rookie talk.
Okay.
Yeah, I can dig it. Well, the defense of the Redskins. Where do you start? Where do you end? I'll give you where I think we should start. Let's talk about the biggest change on this defense this year from last year, and that's the head coach.
Yeah.
What did you guys think, looking back now, on the job Joe Barry did, the changes he made going from a traditional 3-4 to a 4-2, 2-4, whatever you want to call it, nickel defense base? Mm-hmm. Robbie, why don't you start us?
Me?
Yeah.
All right. It was a much more simple defense. Mm-hmm. Guys weren't required to do as much as it looked like they were under Jim Haslett. It was just the one gap attacking style for the front four. The back guys, were all just pretty much in cover 3 majority of the time. We didn't blitz a lot. It's a good scheme to have when you have elite talent that can execute it. I feel we have that scheme in place, but we just don't have the exact talent that we need to execute it efficiently.
Would you say it's similar to what Seattle has, but they do have that elite talent? Is that?
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly what Seattle runs. They run that same kind of 4-3 nickel hybrid defense with pretty much strictly cover 3 and let their corners, kind of give their corners a little bit of, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Freedom to do kind of freelance.
Yeah, that's a good way.
Well, I think you're exactly right. I think if you have elite talent on defense, you can simplify the scheme because they're going to outplay their opponent, basically one-on-one. Richard Sherman's going to cover. Going to cover the receiver. Their front four is generally going to more often than not take advantage of the opposing team offensive line, and I get that's kind of the philosophy, and that was sort of the anti-Greg Williams, right?
Right.
Because back when Greg Williams was here, he knew other than LeVar Arrington at one point in time who was an elite talent, and one or two others, Darryl Green at the tail end of his career, maybe a long time ago.
I think Greg Williams was gone by the time Green was here.
Yeah, you're probably right. But point is, Greg Williams had a ton of exotic blitzes, exotic coverages, all sorts of tricks, because he knew we didn't have the talent to beat him sort of straight up front. And Joe Barry is kind of the opposite of that. As Robbie said, how many times did we see blitz stunts this year? Like none, right? Basically not at all. We never did it ever.
There must have been one or two in there that we're just not thinking of.
No, there were.
I'll take Robbie's.
We definitely blitzed. It was not nearly as much as we did under Haslett or even Greg Williams.
But the advantage of having a 4-3, or a 3-4 rather, one of the advantages is that you can in fact disguise blitzes. You have enough linebackers out there to run some stunts, do some other things, and we really didn't do any of that. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it was because Joe Barry just didn't believe in his players enough to be able to execute that, or he's just not creative enough himself, or what. Mm-hmm. But I think it was lacking in that regard, and along the lines of the cover 3 and the defensive backfield. Number one, they wasted Chris Culliver when he was in, because Chris Culliver is a physical press man corner, and to throw him out there in a cover 3, where you're laying off the corners, you're not playing press, up front very often. It's a total waste of Chris Culliver.
That actually brings me to a bigger question about the secondary, because I would say you also just perfectly described Breland as well, that his best strength is you put him one-on-one with a receiver and just kind of let him, take that challenge on. And he gets beat every once in a while. They all do. But yeah, they do. I think that's where Breland's strength is as well.
Mm-hmm. And
I think you're probably right.
Yeah, and you can run a cover 3 and not back them off so much. I mean, you can still kind of press with them, like a more aggressive cover 3 style. But it's just I don't know. It's just getting them used to it. I don't think Culliver was used to it. He backed off a little bit more to kind of read the receivers better, and instead of playing more physical. And I think that hindered him a little bit.
I'll say this about this defense, and we're going to go over the numbers here in a minute, and I want to compare 2015 defense to the 2014 defense. But I will say that we gave up a lot fewer really big, awful plays on defense as compared to the 2014 team. You know, the 2014 team seemed like, you know, every week we'd have 3 or 4 wide open receivers, you know, blown coverages in the defensive backfield.
Right.
And I don't know if that was a function of having Deshaun Goldson. And it seems like I guess I'm his biggest fan because, you know, a lot of the critics out there and the know-nothings who talk about the team don't really like him. But I thought he did a pretty good job of getting everybody set. We didn't see a lot of blown. We saw some blown coverages specifically in the second Eagles game. You know, but the quarterback just kind of blew it, the Eagles quarterback. But other than that, they basically held the really big, awful plays down. And so I think that was the major improvement sort of overall as a defense. We fixed a lot of the glaring coverage errors.
Yeah. And to Joe Barry's credit, too, I mean, we did have a lot of injuries on that defense. I mean, tons of our corners were hurt during the training camp. You know, they were having to mix and match and you know, do patchwork there. I mean, they converted Quentin Dunbar from wide receiver to corner, and he managed to take it and run with it. But, you know, we had to bring in guys off the street, you know, Will Compton. Well, no, I didn't mean Will Compton. I meant Will Blackman, sorry.
Yeah.
Will Blackman.
Will Blackman, who came in and actually overachieved for the most part, but still, you know, he's not some
He's
elite
not a long-term
talent.
answer.
No, he's not. And that's the thing. We have guys that are overachieving, but we don't have, you know, that talent that can really execute it that way he wants, I don't think.
I have 2 points to what you just said, Robbie, that should be of interest. At the end of the season, I was arguing about our secondary with somebody online, and I took the time to actually go and count the number of games that our entire secondary, the guys we wanted to be starters, were there.
Right.
It was like 2 games the entire season that we had our entire secondary healthy early in the season. Because, you know, Breland was out for the first week, and then Culver was injured and off the, you know, on IR or whatever by week 4, I think. And there were other guys hurt in between there.
Well, how are you counting D'Angelo Hall either? I mean, counting D'Angelo Hall as a starter?
That's the thing.
As intended starter?
That's the thing I wanted to kind of touch on is D'Angelo Hall, like his role with that defense in general.
It's an interesting one, to say the least.
Yeah. I was actually pretty surprised about how he played as a safety. He was a lot more he was a lot more physical than I expected him to be. I mean, he had been a good solid tackler as a corner, but like he came up and hit guys. Like he, you know, friendly fired a couple of his teammates in a couple of games. Like he knocked out a couple of guys trying to bring the boom from the safety spot.
He seemed to actually play much more naturally at the position than I thought he would.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not an easy thing for a guy in his 30s to transition positions like that.
No.
Because I'm sure he hasn't done it since high school.
Oh,
I'm sure he played it a little bit in high school, probably. You know.
I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm sure he hasn't since then.
Here's a follow-up thought on it. Is the simplicity of what Barry was doing, how much do you think that helps for a guy like Hall?
Well, let me answer that by saying this. Someone wrote an article a couple days ago, or maybe last week, but mentioning how each defense the past couple years for the Super Bowl, each one that won the game had that elite safety.
Sure.
You know, and that's the thing. Earl Thomas makes everything easier for that Seattle defense because he has such great range. And that's what I kind of see D'Angelo Hall could do for us. But the question is his age. You know, D'Angelo Hall has always been a fast corner. You know, he's always been one of the more faster, agile, quick guys. He can cover a lot of ground. But, you know, at this point in his career, you know, is he going to lose that speed that he already had? You know, I mean,
clearly he's going to lose the speed. He's going to lose the speed. But the question is really, I don't think he has to have the straight line speed that elite corner has. What he has to be able to do as a safety, in particular, if he's going to play free safety in a cover 3, you know, and I realize Goldston did it primarily, you know, most of the season, not D'Angelo Hall, but as a free safety, he's got to have the speed and athleticism to cover the entire field.
Right.
From sideline to side.
Speed.
Exactly think back to what Sean Taylor did.
Right.
And he was an elite Hall of Fame talent. I'm not trying to compare D'Angelo Hall to Sean Taylor, but Taylor had the athleticism and the quickness to be able to get from one side of the field to the other, and that's what you want. I think Hall right now probably has it, but the question is, will he have it 2 years from now?
Right. Yeah.
Charles Woodson's the model. Charles Woodson's
Oh, of
been doing it
course.
for like
Of course.
4 years.
And he's been around forever, it seems. Safety is probably the biggest question mark for us long term, but I'm actually going to say for the next, I don't know, year, 2 years, I'm kind of okay rolling with Golson and Hall, at least, at those two positions, as we bring along younger guys like Jarrett to kind of fill the spot.
I think Jarrett can be that future safety.
Yeah, I think he kind of could too. He's shown some real versatility.
He's a solid tackler. He brings the a physicality to his game, and he also has that range too. Like he's played it safety for us a couple times this year, and he's done pretty well. I don't know if he's quite ready yet, but he's definitely that. He's that piece we can move all around the defense,
Right.
as he's proven.
Right.
Don't you think McGlue's going to draft a safety anyway, though? I mean, he's almost guaranteed to draft a safety, I think.
I would think so, or maybe a free agent safety. Like there's a couple guys out there.
Somebody.
Yeah. Iloka from the Bengals is a possibility, but
Bullock
we'll
did a
get there.
piece recently on some good candidates in free agency, and what excited me about it is all the candidates he was looking at were 27 and under, basically. Younger guys. So
I
they
don't
still
think
have some
Scott
career
McGloin's
left.
going to bring in any older vets at this point. This is not a team that needs older free agents,
Not
unless they're
necessarily,
really
no.
desperate.
Yeah.
If they're desperate, yeah,
Yeah.
fine. But I mean, their primary free agency targets, I think, are going to be young guys.
I mean, I just don't think that you're going to necessarily be too eager to cast off Golston, Hall, just because they're older. But
Right.
they bring some leadership to you as veterans.
Yeah, and listen, one thing I wanted to get out there is, I think a lot of the fans are too focused on the salary cap.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody knows the big number. Golston has a big number, right?
Yeah.
And Pierre Garçon, we're talking defense, but I mean, on offense, Pierre Garçon has a big number. Deshaun Jackson has a big number. And there's a few of them out there, other than those three guys. It's not always just about reducing the salary cap.
No.
Sometimes if you have a veteran player who can fill the role and play like Golson, for example, you need to keep him.
Right.
You need to take the cap hit. It's not just, this is not an exercise in accounting. This is an exercise in trying to build a winning football team. And there's something to be said for continuity and veteran leadership, on a team.
I agree with you, although I still am in the, hey, you at least should try to renegotiate that deal. I mean, he has some incentive, too, because he has no guaranteed money left in his contract. So
Right.
you could at least make that argument to him, hey, if you cut, I don't know, $4 million off your $8 million hit, we'll make it so you're guaranteed a bigger chunk of it. So,
I don't like spending the money just to spend it. If you don't need it, don't spend it. Save it in case you actually do need it. Like, someone's, like you said, someone's contract needs to be reworked or whatever. You do that to help your situation. If you got a guy on your team that you want to re-sign that did well, you can use it for that. You don't have to go out and spend it on someone else's, player that they couldn't re-sign.
Yeah.
It's not
and
always
just
a
for the
solid
record,
answer.
What Goldson's contract goes through the 2017 season. His cap hit next year is $8 million with no dead money, and then in 2017 his cap hit is $7.25 million. His salary, he has no bonus money left at all. I mean, that's all straight annual salary, which is why the dead money is out. So I mean, $8 million's a big number. There's no doubt.
But
there's also a bunch of, other than D'Angelo Hall, there's D'Angelo Hall and Chris Culliver have big contracts,
right?
Fairly big numbers. Whoops, sorry about that, folks. But the rest of them are a bunch of young guys. Breland's a rookie. Quentin Dunbar, not a rookie. Breland's on his rookie contract.
Right.
Will Blackman's making league minimum. Quentin Dunbar was a rookie last year. Who am I missing? I mean, there's 3 or 4. Jarrett was a rookie.
They're all making under
minimum money. Some of them aren't even in the 51. Probably.
Right. And real quick on the secondary, then let's move on to another part of the defensive roster.
Yeah.
I don't see Blackman coming back. That's just me. I think we'll find someone younger to do
I
the
thought he
same job.
performed well, though.
He did, but you can find somebody half his age to play that position.
And draft, yeah.
Yeah, in the draft. Well, okay. What do you want to talk about next in terms of the defense? Steve,
How
I know
about this?
you have your rank how we did offense or versus the year before. Do you want to go over that?
Yeah, sure, I'll do that. I just wanted to, for me, it's all about results on the field, and I've said it over and over again. The stats aren't everything, but the stats do paint a picture. About it's one thing to look at, and so I'll just go over some 2014 rankings and then give you the 2015 rankings. We can talk about them. The 2014 Redskins points wise were ranked 30th in the NFL. They gave up 438 points over this. No, that's a really bad number. And from a yardage perspective, it wasn't a heck of a lot better. They were 20th. In the NFL, it gave up 5,712 yards. From a passing defense standpoint, Redskins have it on the wrong spot here. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
The Redskins were 24th in passing yardage at the end of the year, which just surprises me that it was even that high. Because we had some really bad games. They gave up 3,990 yards passing. The run defense, on the other hand, they were 12th in the NFL in run defense, gave up 1,722 yards. Okay. That was 2014. So overall, ranking was pretty bad. In points at the bottom, they were 20th in yardage. Mm-hmm. Now the 2015 Redskins. Team defense points wise, we were ranked 17th in the NFL, so it's an improvement. They moved up 13 points in the rankings, which is about a little over a third.
Mm-hmm. What was that's the number wise. There for those two?
The number of points?
Yeah.
379 points. And in comparison to the 2014 team, which gave up 438 points. So that's 20 plus another 30. So that's almost 60 points difference.
Which I'm trying. I was going to do the math real quick. You can keep doing it. I'm going to tell you if that's like a touchdown better. I think it's about a touchdown better.
Touchdown per game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So from a yardage perspective, in the 2015 Redskins were 28th in the NFL. We gave up a ton of yardage, worse than last year. We gave up 6,090 yards, which is ranked 28th. In the 2014, we were 20th and gave up 5,712. So we gave up significantly more yardage this year than 2014. The 2015 Redskins passing defense, yardage-wise.
Mm-hmm. By the way, it's only 4 points better per game.
4 points? Okay.
Still, that's 4 points is
it's a significant improvement. Yeah, it's a significant improvement. The 2015 Redskins were ranked 25th in passing yardage, given up 4,128 yards. Mm-hmm. That is in comparison to the 2014 passing defense, which was ranked 24th. So about the same ranking. We were one less this year. The rushing defense, this is where we're going to see bad and then bad again. We were ranked 26th in the NFL this year in 2015. And let me tell you, that was only because of the last couple games, because we were cruising the very bottom, of the league all year long. And if you look at yards per attempt, let's look at yards per attempt. Yards per attempt, we were 30th in the NFL, which is tied for second to last with the Chargers at 4.8 yards per carry. That is 2015, sorry. The 2014 run defense, from a yardage perspective, we were 12th in the NFL, like I said, 1,722 yards. So much, much, much better in 2014. Yards per attempt, 4.1 yards per attempt in 2014 as opposed to 2015, which is 4.8. So what that means is this probably shouldn't come as a surprise. I mean, we knew that our run defense was horrific
Suspect.
this year.
Yeah.
Not suspect, horrific. One of the worst in the NFL. By any statistical measure, probably the second worst in the NFL.
Yeah.
2014 Redskins were a lot better on run defense. In the passing yardage, they were better. I mean, statistically, in every ranking but points given up, the 2014 defense was better overall than this year's.
But points is a big.
Points is the most important number.
Yeah, it's points then turnovers usually that people care about.
We were a lot better on turnovers this year too.
Yeah.
But that was primarily because we didn't have nearly the interceptions from the offense,
Did you happen to say what our sacks totals were compared to each other?
No, but I can.
I was just curious how better we were at pressure this year compared to last year.
Yeah. No, it's a good question. Because it sure didn't seem like we got a lot of pressure on defense this year.
It didn't seem like it, but people forget how bad Arakpo was the year before.
And you don't notice hurries too, like hurries and quarterback pressures and hits. Those don't get counted when you're watching the game, obviously.
Right.
Yeah, and you'd have to delve into PFF for that, and I refuse to do that because they're a fraud. So, we were 22nd in the NFL in 2014 with 36 sacks. And as compared to the 2015 Redskins, give me 1 second here.
Which is just over one per game, or not one per game. Sorry, 2 per game.
It's 2 per game. Okay, 2015 Redskins, we were 15th with 38 sacks. So
about the same.
Almost a statistical tie. Yeah.
So we still need to improve our front seven, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now the point here is, the defense did not improve in any measure except points, which again is the most important thing.
Right.
I don't know if you can look anybody square in the eye and say the 2015 defense was noticeably improved from the Hazlitt defenses. It was just different.
Yeah.
It was more different than better.
Lipstick on a pig. Lipstick on a pig.
Yeah.
Well, I agree with you to one point, but I will also say they were different defensive philosophies, and Barry's being a simpler bend but don't break kind of philosophy yielded better results with the same, or I would even argue, in some ways, less elite talent.
Yeah, he definitely had to deal with more obstacles than Hazlitt did last year.
I mean, I don't think.
In what
Hazlitt
way?
was,
What obstacles?
Like injuries.
Yeah.
And dealing with all these newcomer free agents that came in off the streets, like Mason Foster, Will Blackman, as we mentioned him earlier, and a couple others. It's just, it was a bit of a challenge to kind of put it all together, to even field a decent defense.
Granted,
And I do think our secondary overall was better, like I've been saying.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
I do
at
too.
least they locked down. They did not give up 50-yard touchdowns on a regular basis when nobody was covering the receiver.
right.
And given the players they had, I mean, if you can throw Clinton, Dunbar, and Phillips out there and not get crushed, I mean,
Right.
you're doing well.
I, for one, even though your stats, kind of do say that it hasn't improved much, I like the direction that we're heading, even if it's not statistically improved. I hated Hazlitt's scheme so much. His entire offense relied on edge pressure and turnovers, and if you didn't get those, you basically got beaten all the time, like a drum.
What's our scheme now, though?
Scheme now is pressure with the front four and keeping everybody in front of you, basically. That's the
it's bend but don't
general
break.
concept. Yeah.
I hate the term bend but don't break, personally, but
I don't like that way of thinking, but I love the fact that he places the emphasis on the D linemen doing their job.
Right.
He wants to let the D linemen do their thing, get the pressure on their own. You don't have to dial up crazy blitzes. And I personally hate blitzing, by the way. If your blitz doesn't get there, you're most likely going to get gashed.
coming from
game.
a career offensive lineman
Yes.
who happens to hate blitzes. Imagine that.
No, I don't hate. I mean, I loved it when teams were heavy blitzers because we were so good at picking it up and we'd gash them every time. But as a defense I don't want you to do that. I want you to keep your guys, reading the ball, just reading, reacting, and just playing football, not blitzing.
No
I
cover
think about
zero.
how the Broncos beat the Patriots. They didn't blitz a lot. They got a ton of pressure. And they did it to the Panthers too, for that matter. I mean, in both games, they got a ton of pressure from the front four alone without weird stunts. I mean, you're exactly right, Robbie. I mean, that's the recipe on how to beat Peyton Manning or
I mean,
how to beat Tom Brady, right?
same thing for the Seahawks. I mean,
Yeah.
they have amazing talent up front. They got what was his name? They brought in the guy from the Vikings that was there for a long time to play D tackle.
Right. I can't remember his name either, but I know.
We're gonna have to look it up.
I'm drawing a blank, but they
Jared
have
something?
no. But they had Bruce Irvin rushing off the edge. They have, Michael Bennett rushing off the edge. Cliff Averill, three really good defensive ends that you can mix and match and put all over the D line. It really made a difference for that defense. Plus, obviously having a secondary like they do with Earl Thomas leading that. But it all kind of meshed together there. But I think you really have to look at the Broncos, how they had their defense set up. Even the Giants, when they beat the Patriots both times in the Super Bowl, they had an amazing front four that just demolished the Patriots' offensive line and got to Brady pretty much all night, and that made the world of difference.
Okay, on the Seahawks, are you talking about Bennett, Rubin, Mebane, or Averill? Reuben.
Reuben he came from the Browns. There was a
Yeah.
Is he still there?
He played there this season.
Was it Jared Allen? Is that?
No. Jared Allen's
No,
with the Panthers.
no.
Okay.
Yeah.
He was with the Vikings. He played D tackle there forever.
You must be talking about Brandon.
No, it's not.
Mebane,
It's not
right?
Mebane. It's not Mebane. I'll figure it
Well,
out.
they're back. I'm just looking at the Seahawks depth chart. That was those were the starters. I see Frank Clark, AJ Francis, Jordan Hill, Cassius Marsh. Those are the.
Or maybe
those
he
are
left.
the-
Or maybe he went to a different team after that. Maybe it was last year where he was on there. Never mind. Forget it.
Regardless.
Regardless.
Never. This is not the Seahawks hour, folks. This is the Redskins hour.
Yeah, they're also a Washington team. Where were we?
Yeah. Sorry, my fire alarm was beeping. I had to turn it off.
Yeah, it's all right.
We really are a professional organization. We promise.
Yeah. At least you turned it off, and we didn't go the whole rest of the show with an annoying beep for everybody.
I don't know. It may not have affected our listenership at all.
Yeah. Well,
Probably
but
not.
you guys know a little bit about an annoying beep, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I know a lot about an annoying beep, and that's another beep I'd want to just rip off the wall and throw away.
So I guess before we close off the defense, I do need to kind of touch on our front seven. I think we haven't really talked about the positions themselves or the players there.
Okay, yeah, let's do that real quick, but I really do want to get into the whole rookie thing with you.
Yeah, I do too. I just don't want to leave out
Sure.
our inside linebackers and pass rushers and D linemen.
Can I start you off then?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is it safe to say that the Paya signing was a failure?
He didn't do a whole lot. No. I think you're fair there.
Yeah, I don't know. He was injured. He didn't have a big effect. On the defense, he was supposed to be a star. When we talked in one of our very first episodes, we looked at his contract and we said, okay, this is a guy who's going to be expected to be a major contributor over a long period of time, and it didn't happen.
Right.
I just like to know from a guy who knows, what exactly was going on with Paya.
I don't know. It looked like he just got outperformed by Chris Baker, and they said the best guys are going to play or will start, and they did that. Chris Baker obviously deserved to be starting because he had an amazing year.
He really did.
He deserved at least a consideration for the Pro Bowl. I mean, it may not have been an outstanding season, but it still I think was worth a
there were
honorable
times-
mention or something.
There were times when Chris Baker was the best player on that defense and
Yes.
was just dominating. And, we need to see it more. Like, I'm not saying he's Reggie White, but, he would have individual plays where he would just take over the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
Which was really impressive on Baker's part. But, yeah, I don't know what to say about Paya. We brought in three guys in Paya, Knighton, and Ricky Jean-Francois. Two of them worked out. So if you want to take that approach, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. But
Well, I mean,
I
yeah,
still don't
Ricky
think
John.
Pye is a bad player, though. Like, I think he just got stuck
I didn't
behind
say he
Chris
was a
Baker.
bad player.
No,
I just
no,
meant,
I know.
you know.
I'm just. I guess I.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, he didn't. We brought him in to be a stalwart
Mhm.
on the defensive line, and he just didn't do it.
we brought him in
Just
to take
wasn't. Well,
a lot of reps, and yeah.
he was supposed to be
well,
a starter, but he didn't do
yeah.
that.
Well, and the other one to talk about, Robbie, is Hatcher.
Yeah.
I mean, we I guess at this time we don't know whether he's retiring or not retiring.
Yeah.
He's never been what the Redskins hoped he would be when he came here.
No, he showed signs of that like early in the season each year, but as it went on, I think we've said this before, but as the
Yeah.
season went on, he deteriorated each season. Just
Yeah.
his body broke down, and the opposite happened for Terrence Knighton. We talked about how Knighton was supposed to be the solid run stopper for us. And a lot of people have kind of caught on, especially Mark Bullock. He kind of pointed out that Knighton's more like a two gap guy. He wasn't really a one gap, dominate one gap type thing. He's a read and react, control both A gaps, nose tackle, and
Ironically, what we were missing the last 4 years under Hazlitt.
yeah, exactly.
And we bring him in, and now we misuse him.
Yeah.
And I brought this up last week when we had Kelly on, and I mentioned how Knighton, he got better as the season went on because he was playing into his actual game shape. He was playing catch up, basically. I don't think he was quite ready for the NFL season when training camp came in, but that's what it is. I don't know if we're going to re-sign him or not. I wouldn't be upset with it. Just because he's a good leader for the D line, guys looked up to him. You could tell they did.
Guy.
Yeah. But the guy who surprised me, though, was Ricky Jean-Francois. He looked like a starter on that D-line when he played. He had moments where he was like living in the backfield where, linemen just couldn't block him. He was our best run stopper other than Chris Baker a lot of times. And he really, kind of earned his way into the rotation more, especially by the end.
Don't you think that with Knighton, we hear a lot of fans out there, on Twitter and everywhere else.
Right.
Since we're doing this here, and a lot of fans are down on Knighton. But I think people, our average fan, really needs to understand that nose tackles aren't meant to have stats.
No.
You're not going to see it, unless you're an elite Hall of Fame Richard Seymour, kind of guy. Not Richard Seymour. Who's the big fatty who was with the Patriots?
Vince
who
Wilfork.
now is with the Texans. Thank you, Vince
Seymour
Wilfork.
was with the Patriots for a while. And
Yeah, he
kind
was
of
a defensive
had
tackle, though.
Yeah.
Not a nose tackle. But my point is, unless you have a really big name, you're not going to see a lot of nose tackles because, like Robbie said, if you're in a 3-4 or 2-gap scheme, their purpose is just to literally eat up space and take up a block, and that's never going to be something that's ever going to show up on a stat sheet. Your average fan is not sophisticated enough to see it. Not that Alex, you and I are either, but
No,
Robbie is.
I'd like to think at this point you and I are both aware enough to know what we're missing. We know we don't see it, but we know what we're not seeing.
I guess what I'm saying, I'd really like to have an expert's point of view as to how good Knighton really did.
Right.
Robbie.
He ate up space. I think he did pretty much what he was asked to do. People may be upset with his stats not showing, but I think he did, for the most part, a decent job. I thought he got more disruptive near the end, like I said, because he was in better shape. But for the most part, he was just doing his job and holding the A gaps and trying to open up lanes for the linebackers to get the tackles. But I don't know. It wasn't outstanding. It wasn't bad. It was just, I think, right in the middle. Just he did his job basically. I don't think he went above and beyond.
Well, and the last thing I'd want to say on Knight before we move on to the linebackers real quick is he was having apparently these weird migraine health issues throughout the first half of the year, and it was bad enough where he missed a couple games because of it. So, I'm assuming when they're saying migraines, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt that it's not a hangover like we used to kind of use migraines.
He had it too many weeks in a row. I mean, it was on the injury report about 5 weeks in a row.
Right. So that's more than just he's hungover excuse.
Yes. It's not a Johnny Manziel.
No. And hopefully, if that's something, if that was part of the reason, you could kind of tell his numbers got better afterward. So hopefully that, I wish nothing but good thoughts for him because, you guys know I was on his bandwagon early on because he went to Temple when they were really good and all that. So I'm going to root for him.
I want him back. I don't want him gone. I want him to stay on this team. He's a good leader. Him and Baker have a great chemistry, obviously, because they're like BFFs for life, that kind of thing. But
yeah,
we just need to add more young depth to the.
Well, let's talk
to the
about that,
defense.
Robbie. Let's talk about that. To me, it seems like being sort of the uneducated simpleton when it comes to the draft as compared to you. It seems like there's a lot of interior defensive line talent that's going to become available in this year's draft.
yeah.
Yeah,
what do you
absolutely. How Odell Beckham's draft class was like the year of the wide receiver.
Yeah.
I think this is the year of the D tackle. Really is, man. You got guys. There's 3 guys from Alabama that could be first rounders.
Ragland, one of them, right?
Ragland. Well, Ragland's an inside linebacker, but
Okay.
I'm
See,
talking
this
about,
is why we need you.
Yeah, D line especially. You got Reed from Alabama, Robinson from Alabama. Those are the main ones that get the attention from Alabama on the D line.
Now, where are they going to go? Top of the draft, top of the first round, middle, where? Some other round?
Mid to late first round. They're not like top 10 or anything.
Here's the kicker about the D line in this draft, Steve, because you don't do the mock drafts. You probably haven't seen this. There's so much depth that there will be quality first rounders by still into the second round with defensive tackles. Like, that's how deep we are.
You could get a good one in the 3rd or 4th, I think.
Right. Guys who will be day one starters will be going in the 3rd round.
Yeah, I just like to say about the draft. I mean, I don't do the all the mock drafts, like you guys. So I have no problem with them. I think they're fun. I just don't have time to do a ton of them. But I think this is one of the only years I can remember truly for the Redskins wise when I think other than outside linebacker and left tackle, I would be happy with. I think the Redskins ought to just draft the best player
And quarterback,
because I think
probably.
there's no. Yeah, and quarterback. Because there's no area outside of outside linebacker, I think left tackle and quarterback, that wouldn't help the team coming out of the 1st or 2nd round.
Sure.
Any area, literally. I mean, we could use interior defensive line, offensive linemen. We could use interior defensive linemen. We could use secondary talent. We could use a running back. We could use a wide receiver.
Tight end.
We could use a middle
we don't necessarily
linebacker.
need in the 1st round. We don't need a tight end.
Well, I mean, are we convinced? Jordan Reed had one good season. He had one healthy season. Do we know he's going to have a second?
See, tight end, I don't see us doing hardly anything at tight end. McLuhan, he brought in Derek Carrier. He traded for him. We got Niles Paul, who's coming back from injury. Logan Paulson is still, on the roster. He had an injury that took him out for the season. We have a lot of depth on that tight end spot, and a lot of guys that are going to be fighting for a roster spot next year. So I don't think they're going to do anything about tight end.
I think technically right now
You're
we have
right.
like 5 or 6 guys.
Probably so. My point is, let's forget tight end then. But my point is, add that to the list. I think other than those limited positions, I think we could do almost anything, and it would help the team.
Sure, I'm in agreement with you. It's more of a question to me. Where do you, if defensive tackle is as deep as we're saying, does it make sense to maybe say, okay, use that pick, and this is the most popular one, Robbie, that I'm sure you've seen in a lot of the mock drafts by the experts, is a corner. This kid Alexander, I see a lot.
Mackenzie Alexander from Clemson.
Yeah.
Eli Apple from
Ohio
State, I want to say. I'm pulling these names off the
Isn't
top of my
Mackenzie
head.
Alexander like a top of the 1st round kind of guy, though? Like an above 21 spot kind of guy? That's the one thing. I know.
It's possible. Like he'll be like
if he has good,
10 to he could go
okay.
10 to 20. Yeah.
Who should we look for in the combine, Robbie? It's coming up. D tackle wise, defensive line wise. We're still on the defensive line, sort of.
Defensive line. I wanted to list off basically the best interior D line guy in this draft. I think is DeForest Buckner from Oregon. He's a huge dude, man. He's I think like the next I want to say like the next Calais Campbell, basically. He's 6'7", 290. He's just a mountain of a man, and he's really hard to block, very disruptive. Behind him, talent-wise, I want to say is Robert Nkemdiche from Ole Miss, but he, has some character flaws, and his tape's not the most consistent.
Isn't he the guy that? Can you stop right there? Isn't he the guy that fell out of a window and got arrested for, marijuana as a result of it? Didn't he have some really weird incident like that happen?
Yes, he did, and it's a very good chance he could fall to us at 21 because of his character flaws. Anyway,
but it should be said that McLuhan doesn't like bad character guys, or so he says. But go ahead.
We do have Junior Galette on our team too.
We don't have him right now, but I didn't mean to interrupt.
He's a restricted free agent, though. Anyway, after him, there's Andrew Billings, who's basically a bowling ball type D tackle for Baylor. He's actually pretty explosive for a nose guard, nose tackle type. He's 6'2", 300 pounds.
He's one that I'm keeping an eye on. I think he could, if he has good pro day, I would maybe, or combine. I'd maybe really focus in on him.
And he will have a good pro day, I think. He's very athletic for a big nose guard, or not big, but like heavy nose guard type guy. After him, there is Sheldon Rankin'S from Louisville. He's a personal favorite of mine. You want a pass rushing D lineman, look no further than Sheldon Rankin'S. He is a smooth pass rusher. He has an amazing interior spin move. It's the same type of ice pick spin move like Dwight Freeney. He has a really crisp swim move too. He has pretty much a counter for any move that a lineman throws at him. So I personally like him a lot. I think he's underrated compared to these other D tackles. And then let's see, what's another good one? Vernon Butler from Louisiana Tech, another big boy. He is 6'3", 325.
Okay.
He's a very powerful dude. He plays in the Conference USA, same conference as ODU, and he is pretty tough. He showed well during the Senior Bowl, which helped his stock. So he could go up at our pick in the 21st, or he could even go higher depending on how he does in the combine. But he's a very underrated talent as well. And then after that, there's one guy that kind of came out of nowhere during the Senior Bowl. That's Jihad Ward. He went to Illinois. He's a big guy as well, kind of like DeForest Buckner.
Steve, you can hear Robbie's still going on, and these are all guys who could be first-round talent.
Yeah, his name.
Get a defensive tackle.
His name is Jihad.
Yep.
Yeah, Jihad Ward. He's 6'5".
I mean,
he's 6'5", 296.
We're gonna name our child after a negative Islamic, tradition, where we're going to go attack.
Steve, he would have been born before 9/11, so no one would have given a crap about that name at the time.
Oh, I don't know about that, but
it's like naming your kid Osama back then. No one cared.
Well, Jihad Ward doesn't have a lot of tape from what I've seen, but the one game I was able to watch wasn't that impressive. So to hear him,
was Jihad explosive?
Not in that game. But so to me, I need to see more of him because the reports of him doing really well in the Senior Bowl.
We don't get a lot of photos of jihadists, very often.
No.
Oh, no, we don't. But anyway.
Oh, I got a better example for you, Steve. What is Sonny Jurgensen's real name?
I have no idea.
I think it's Adolf.
I've always called him Sonny Jurgensen. No way. His name's not Adolf Jurgensen.
We have a famous Redskins player whose real name was Adolf, yeah.
There's no way his name is Adolf Jurgensen. Sorry, Robbie, go ahead. I keep cutting you off to make the jihad joke.
Yeah, it's a dead horse.
Sorry, it's Christian Adolf Jurgensen. That's
Christian Adolf Jurgensen?
Yeah.
Wow. But yeah, Jihad Ward, he's got that frame, the build, and that scouts would love. They see him, they like, wow, that guy should be on our team. He's got the size, he's got the potential. He does have potential, and that's why I want to see more of his game, because the one game I saw was not good. It was not very good at all. So like I was trying to say, the scouting, the Senior Bowl week that he had during practice and dominating like he did is surprising. And I need to see more to kind of verify, or maybe
he's saying that Jihad failed.
See, you're throwing me off, man.
Steve's just going to run with his for a while.
It just cracked me up.
Yeah. So he's a very interesting late round guy to consider if we don't get a D tackle early on.
Right. So Robbie, yeah, I think I didn't keep count, but you had at least 10 names there of very good. And the scary thing is, everyone you listed, I've heard that name at least pop up once in a conversation.
You tell me all those are potential first round talent?
Probably top 100 talent. Some of them won't be. I mean, they won't all go in the first round for
and
sure.
The great thing is, I mean, there are teams that need interior D line, but they're not all going to take one in the first round.
Right.
So that's the great thing. You're going to get some really good talent in probably the second, even third round.
Well, because
It's true first round talent.
Teams are a little predictable in that there's these people who are like, oh, you can't draft this in the first round because it's not valuable, and you're going to have 4 quarterbacks go. There are not 4 quarterbacks who are first round talent this year, but there will be 4 quarterbacks taken in the first round because that's what happens.
Right.
I know that we're kind of running out of time for this episode, but I think we can't let it pass with talking about the defensive line without addressing middle linebacker a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We started off with Keenan Robinson, Perry Riley, and we ended up the year with Will Compton and Mason Foster.
Right.
From my perspective on it, Compton and Foster are good young players. They're improving. They outplayed Robinson, they outplayed Riley collectively, but there are teams out there that have elite talent at middle linebacker.
Sure.
Look at, the Packers, for example. Straight
look
off the top
at
of my
the
head.
2 teams in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the
exactly.
49ers, they have Navarro Bowman.
If we assume we're going to draft a middle linebacker, since we're talking draft, who should we be looking at, Robbie?
Reggie Ragland gets a lot of buzz because he's that main guy from Alabama. He's,
Right.
their leading tackler, tough guy, big hitter. But I don't think he's the kind of linebacker Scott's going to be looking for. He's not a sideline-to-sideline guy. He's a downhill thumper, kind of like I want to compare him to Brandon Spikes from Florida,
who had a pretty
came from
good
Florida.
career in the NFL. But
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't bad, but he wasn't. He's not a cover guy. And if you want to run this cover 3, read and react, sideline to sideline type system, you need a guy that can do that. And I'll basically mention the top 2 guys in this draft for inside linebacker or outside linebacker if you're in a 4-3. Basically, the best 2 are Jaylon Smith from Notre Dame and Miles Jack from UCLA. Personally, my favorite of the 2 is Miles Jack. He might be my favorite prospect in the entire draft. He's an athletic freak. So is Jaylon Smith. But Miles Jack is incredibly fast and athletic. He can, and so smooth with his hips. He can cover wide receivers like a nickel corner.
right.
He can cover tight ends. He can do pretty much anything you need him to. And he's not just like some finesse cover guy. He's a thumper too. Like when he is trying to stop the run and attack the run, he attacks the linemen that try to come up and block him. He doesn't just try to get around them. He brings a hit to them. So he's a pretty much a total package in my opinion. But the unfortunate thing is he most likely won't even be out of the top 10.
Right.
So he's not going to have a chance with him.
He's not it's not our. He's not going to be on a Redskins.
And Jaylon Smith is basically the next Patrick Willis, the way I see it. He may not be as smart of a linebacker as him. He's a little inconsistent at times, but athletic ability wise, size wise, he's pretty much the exact same player as Patrick Willis. He has that potential.
Wait a minute. So, and he's your second choice? So
Yes.
Jax, is that good?
Jax is, I say, Deone Bucannon for the Cardinals, the safety they converted to linebacker.
Yeah.
He's basically Deone Bucannon, only more of a linebacker than he is a safety. He's
So that sounds more like a Brian Urlacher type.
Brian Urlacher. Yep.
Okay.
Very much
Who
so.
was a safety at New Mexico in college. I said, by the way, middle linebacker. I meant inside linebacker.
Right,
Sorry.
right.
I kind of still use those terms interchangeably. I don't know why.
Well, it'd be because in a 4-3,
Right.
that,
Right.
Anyway,
Well,
you've got a middle linebacker.
my only point on the linebacker discussion would be I really do like Will Compton, and I think he is rangy. I think he has that speed to.
He's smart too. He's a
Yeah.
smart player.
What
He's
I
not
can-
an elite athlete, though. That's the problem.
No, he's not elite, but he can get from sideline to sideline pretty well. So I don't worry about him at that position.
You guys want a sleeper for
Go
a
ahead.
linebacker?
Sure.
This guy was basically a no-name going into the Shrine game, the East-West Shrine game for the seniors. Jatavis Brown from Akron.
Okay.
This dude,
Akron?
yep,
Wow.
he is 5'10", 220 pounds. He's a small guy.
Sounds like
not
London
a lot of weight
Fletcher.
on him.
London
He's
Fletcher was a lot heavier than that, though.
Yeah.
He's London Fletcher, but he's much more faster and much more athletic than London Fletcher.
Can he be an NFL inside linebacker, middle linebacker at 220 pounds?
Watch this guy's film. That's all I'm going to say. Watch his
Okay.
film. Go to draftbreakdown.com. Look him up. He is all over the place. He brings the hit. He can cover sideline to sideline like a safety. He's really good. And he's going to fly under the radar because of his size, but I think he's going to be a surprise.
Our team's going to see him and try to convert him to a strong safety.
Well, that's the thing. I think a lot of teams are going to talk to him about playing safety instead of linebacker, but I think he's that kind of guy. It's like, no, I'm a linebacker. I'm going to play linebacker, you know? And I think he can do it. You watch his tape. It's pretty impressive, I got to say. I would love to draft this guy in like the 5th round or 6th
Well,
round.
he's going to blow the combine away on athleticism, I guess, obviously, right?
Let me double
A
check.
guy like
At that
this.
size, he probably has some advantages, you'd think.
All right, so let me Google him real quick just to make sure we got it, that he was invited. Let's see. No, he was not invited. He actually was in this Trent Corney highlight, or no, he was in this like regional combine. Trent Corney was another guy that like highlighted it.
Okay.
But Jatavis Brown ran a 4.47 at this
Holy
regional
moly,
combine.
That-
4.47
for a
is
linebacker,
is
that's
line-
lightning.
Holy moly!
So,
But, I mean,
like
you
I
could be
said,
a
under the
corner at
radar.
that.
Yeah.
You could be a corner at that speed.
Yeah, if
Wow.
he's not in the combine, then you're definitely talking under the radar. You're talking typically guys who aren't in the combine, their last day picks.
You know
Well,
how Scott McLuhan says he doesn't care about athletic ability, all that, the measurables. He wants
film.
he wants football players.
He proved that. That's why we have Mason Foster and Will Compton starting.
Exactly. Watch this guy's film. He has the game film to match his athletic ability.
Well,
I really like him a lot.
I mean, I'm kind of happy going in with Foster and Compton for now, but if we can add another athletic talent like that, somebody who, he'll clearly be with that kind of speed, he'd be a big asset on special teams, and he would get some playing time, hopefully.
He would be a special teams demon,
Yeah. So, I like the sound of
at
that.
least until he, got his chance to start.
Sure. And, that's always tricky, but that's what the game's all about, right?
Right.
Let's say that should wrap the show up here today, guys. Anything else pressing you want to talk about, or are you good to go?
Yeah, let's not bring Jihad to Washington D.C. That's all I have to say.
All right. Steve, if he gets like 20 Pro Bowls just because of your hard right-wing ideology and we don't have them, that's on you.
I will, to keep Jihad out of our nation's capital, I will gladly take the burden.
All right.
One quick thing, just for you listeners out there, I do have we've kind of talked about them, but I have like I put out on Twitter, wanted you guys to vote on what position you want me to break down draft-wise, and I will have a defensive tackle, my top 5 favorites in like one under the radar article with either by tomorrow or tomorrow being Monday or Tuesday.
Okay. Cool. Very cool. All right. Well, that about does it.
Looking forward to reading it.
Yeah, that about does it for this week's episode. We're going back to once a week, folks, so deal with it. I really
know you're crushed.
Yeah, I know they're crushed. My wife doesn't.
Oh,
know
final
that.
thought. Can I get a final thought before you sign off?
Okay.
Real quick.
Is it about the Lakers? Are you going to
Congratulations,
talk about the Lakers?
Yes, it is. Just shut up and let me say it. Tonight, Kobe Bryant's playing his 18th All-Star game, his final one. For us Laker fans, it's a very sad thing. I congratulate him on a brilliant career, and we're going to miss him.
Okay.
So, there you go.
All right. Well, that does it for the show, folks. Be safe out there, and have fun. I hope you had a fun Valentine's Day.
See ya.
No jihad.